That server was seriously incapable and so irritating. Really, she might get away with it because she's just a college student, but that won't cut it in the real world. Moreover, Emily and Julia were really laying into that server earlier. The guys, including myself, were sending them these indescribable looks, but the two of them didn't seem to notice. I was appalled by Emily and Julia's behavior and looked away from them. Then, I turned my gaze towards the server. At least, the server managed to serve a margarita to a customer. However, the next moment, the server collapsed. I immediately rushed over to the server to check her pulse and perform a quick examination. I then asked another nearby server to call an ambulance. Henry and the others watched me in surprise as I did this. A little while later, the ambulance arrived and the server was taken away. As I sighed in relief, Lisa said to me, "Who are you exactly?" "My name is Michael. I'm 32 years old. I have an unremarkable appearance and wear glasses. I seem to be sort of like the stereotypical nerd. Plus, I'm only 5'6" tall and rather short for a man, which doesn't help my looks. Despite all that, I'm a doctor. People who have heard my introduction up to this point might think that my looks don't matter since I'm a doctor. I used to think so too, especially during my student days. Back then, I was negative, lacked confidence, and didn't look great. But there was one thing I was proud of. That was my studies. I was the kind who scored well across all subjects, never getting below 85 on any tests. As a result, in middle school, many of my classmates would ask me for help with math. During those days, I ended up teaching math to quite a few people, but one classmate was notably bad at it. That was Henry. He was a charming, athletic type who was very popular. But no matter how much I taught him, he struggled to grasp math. It's like God gives everyone some sort of flaw. I used to think so, because Henry was that bad at math. But Henry had a great personality. He never pretended to understand something he didn't, and always thanked me after I taught him. I grew to admire his character, which is probably why I was able to patiently teach him math. As a result, our math study sessions continued for a while. Henry and I became good friends, and we've kept in touch even as adults. Interestingly, Henry was one of the reasons I decided to become a doctor. After getting to know him during my student days, I began to see myself more objectively. Adolescent me inevitably compared myself to Henry, highlighting the disparities between us. Henry, being handsome and athletic, would likely have no trouble finding a job or getting by, even without being good at studies. On the other hand, all I had were my studies. I feared that with my current specs, I might not be able to get married in the future. At the time, I was interested in girls, wanted to be popular, and hoped to marry someday. Comparing myself to Henry made me anxious about the future. I realized I had to do something about it, and at that moment, I knew I wanted to get married in the future. It was probably too early to be thinking that far ahead, especially since I didn't even know who I wanted to marry. But for me, at that time, it was a serious concern. From then on, I began aiming to become a doctor. The reason why I chose to be a doctor was because of the ranking of men's occupations women want to marry frequently featured in the media at the time, where doctors consistently ranked high. Looking at those statistics, I thought being a doctor was the only way to go. Moreover, I liked helping people, which made me think that the profession of a doctor might suit me well. Fortunately, my parents supported my ambition to become a doctor. Despite the high cost of medical school, they never objected, which I think was really kind of them. Thus, I smoothly progressed through university, overcame the training period, and became a doctor. I loved my job of saving patients every day, had patients who relied on me, and felt a sense of fulfillment in my work as a doctor. However, my personal life was hardly satisfying at all. So, having become a doctor, I decided to start meeting women. As a newly minted doctor, I turned to dating apps. The reason I chose dating apps over mixer parties was simply because mixers seemed like a high hurdle for me. Somehow, as an adult, I still didn't look great. I lacked the courage to go to mixers, easily imagining being ridiculed by women just for my looks. But dating apps seemed like an easy way to meet women, and I could chat with them before meeting, giving me an idea of what they were like. There were many benefits to using dating apps, making them suitable for a nervous in love like me. However, reality was not so kind. After starting with dating apps, I met a few women, but somehow, they all turned out to be quite peculiar. To be specific, some were clearly only after my money. Some pretended to be single but were actually married, and there were even scammers. Honestly, even though my stance towards women had significantly improved, I no longer wanted to use dating apps. This was not how I had envisioned my future, but reality spared no effort in tormenting me, almost breaking my spirit. Then, my phone rang. It was a call from Henry. "Hello." "Hey, how are you? Don't you want to go to a mixer?" Despite the sudden invite, I was losing hope in dating apps, so I quickly agreed. "Awesome, thanks, Michael. But there's one thing I need your help with." "What's that?" I asked Henry to make some arrangements for me. On the day of the mixer, Henry told me something shocking. "Actually, I never planned to have a mixer." "What do you mean?" Henry explained everything from the beginning. In short, he ran into Lisa, a middle school classmate, at a client's company. Feeling nostalgic, he struck up a conversation with Lisa, and then two of her colleagues joined in, eventually asking Henry to set up a mixer, leading to this event. So, this mixer was actually organized for those two colleagues. I see. Entering the mixer venue, I took my seat. The mixer was to be held with 3 men and 3 women, 6 people in total. The men included me, Henry, and Henry's junior, Ryan. Ryan seemed like a cute, likable guy who would be popular with the older crowd. Then, the women arrived at the venue. Leading the way were the 2 colleagues, the masterminds behind this mixer. However, upon seeing my face, the 2 colleagues burst out laughing. Although I had anticipated being laughed at for my looks, it still hurt. Lastly, Lisa arrived. She was beautiful in middle school, but seemed even more so now as an adult. Then the mixer began, and everyone started introducing themselves. "I'm Michael. I work as a company employee. I'm looking forward to tonight." In reality, I am a doctor, but for this occasion, I've asked to be introduced as a company employee. The favor I asked of Henry was to present me as a company employee to the women and Henry's junior, Ryan, and to make sure this was communicated before the mixer. Of course, this plan worked perfectly, and no one realized that I am actually a doctor. I resorted to this because of my experiences on dating apps, where it seemed that women were only interested in me for my money, likely because I revealed my profession as a doctor. I didn't want to encounter women who were only after my money, which is why I requested this scheme. For the record, the company I supposedly work for is considered a small to medium enterprise, similar to Henry and Ryan's level. However, perhaps because of this, none of the women seemed particularly interested in my introduction. Especially the 2 rude colleagues, who wouldn't even make eye contact with me. From the moment they arrived, it seemed like Julia was interested in Ryan, and Emily was focused on Henry. I guess it was inevitable that things turned out this way. Only Lisa made an effort to speak to me. "You're Michael, right? I'm Lisa. We were classmates in middle school. Do you remember me?" "Oh, yes, of course, I remember." I was happy that Lisa remembered me, and I was looking forward to reminiscing about the good old days with her, but my hopes were soon shattered. Emily interrupted my conversation with Lisa. Lisa, you look lame if you talk to someone like that. Yeah, it's much more beneficial to talk with Ryan or Henry. Lisa seemed confused and didn't know how to respond to Emily and Julia's comments. Henry and Ryan tried to ease the awkward atmosphere by intervening, but even they seemed taken aback by the intensity of Emily and Julia. Feeling like my presence was causing trouble, I quietly headed to the restroom. After finishing up, I was about to return to the table when I heard Emily and Julia's voices nearby. Looking around, I saw them standing in front of the girls' restroom and chatting. Not wanting to be noticed, I hid and ended up eavesdropping on their conversation. I was expecting them to be bad-mouthing me, but the content was surprisingly different. Lisa really can read the room, can she? I know, right? Talking to a loser like Michael is just stupid. Yes, what's the point of befriending someone having a below-average face and working at a small business? Exactly. It's because she's naive like that. She ends up doing our work for us. Right. If we show a bit of remorse when asking, she ends up doing our tasks in our stead. Yep, fools can be quite useful tools if you know how to use them. Emily and Julia continued their petty gossip, essentially revealing that they only saw Lisa as a convenient colleague who would do their work for them. The reason Emily organized a mixer was to get closer to Henry, and Julia wanted to connect with Henry's acquaintances. In essence, Lisa was being used by Emily and Julia, both at work and at the mixer. After making sure Emily and Julia had returned to their seats, I slowly made my way back to the table, feeling weighed down by witnessing their toxic behavior. Reaching the table where everyone was waiting, I just wanted to leave, which probably made me drink faster. Then, a young female server, possibly a college student, came to our table with a dish in hand. Sorry for the wait, here's your margarita pizza. However, everyone at the table seemed puzzled by her words. We didn't order a pizza, so I think you have the wrong table. Right. Oh, I'm so sorry. Please excuse me. It seems the server had mistakenly brought the dish to our table and quickly moved to another table. I thought the server's nervousness was somewhat endearing, but Emily and Julia seemed annoyed. That server is seriously incapable, and it's irritating. Really, she might get away with it because she's just a college student, but that won't cut it in the real world. Furthermore, Emily and Julia were harshly criticizing the server. The men, including myself, were sending them indescribable looks for their harsh words, but the two of them didn't seem to notice. I was appalled by Emily and Julia's behavior and looked away from them. Then, I turned my gaze towards the server. At least, the server managed to serve a margarita to a customer. However, the next moment, the server collapsed. I immediately rushed over to the server to check her pulse and perform a quick examination. I then asked another nearby server to call an ambulance. Henry and the others were staring at me in surprise. A little while later, the ambulance arrived, and the server was taken away. As I sighed in relief, Lisa said to me, "Who are you exactly?" Actually, I'm a doctor." As I said this, pushing past Lisa, Emily and Julia barged in. By this point, it was clear from their actions how greedy they were, even without them speaking. I was on the verge of sighing. However, Emily and Julia, unaware of my feelings, approached me with sweet, cloying voices and upturned eyes. "So you were really a doctor. You should have just told us. Were you pretending to be a company employee because Ryan and Henry work at small and medium enterprises? Or well, not only are you smart, but you're also considerate of those around you." Honestly, since Emily and Julia are also 32 years old, their approach felt somewhat pitiful. So I instinctively stepped back from them. The shock of their sudden change in attitude towards me left me speechless. Still, Emily and Julia didn't notice my discomfort and kept pressing closer as I remained silent. I had enough and said to Emily and Julia, "Excuse me, but you were clearly looking down on me just a moment ago, weren't you? And now that you know I'm actually a doctor, you are changing your tune so quickly. Are you even aware of how disrespectful you're being? I find this extremely offensive." I looked at Emily and Julia angrily. I rarely get angry at people unless it's a patient who hasn't followed my advice, worsening their condition. It seems Emily and Julia have a talent for infuriating people. I was trembling with anger. Emily and Julia, not expecting me to say such things or even get angry, were visibly shocked by my reaction. Seeing their response only irritated me further. At this point, I wondered if they were geniuses at making people angry. I sighed involuntarily. Emily, seemingly annoyed by my demeanor, snapped at me. "Don't get cocky just because you're a doctor. Yeah, if you had told us from the start that you were a doctor, we wouldn't have treated you like that. Don't you get it? The ones getting carried away here are you." I'm utterly appalled by your arrogance. What I'm trying to say is that no matter what job the person in front of you has, it's wrong to treat them so terribly. How can you not understand such a fundamental thing? "Michael, there's no point getting worked up over them," said a voice from behind me. Turning around, I saw Henry and Ryan standing there, both glaring at Emily and Julia. That's right. If they were decent people, they wouldn't belittle others like that, Ryan said firmly. It seemed Ryan was also upset after seeing me being hurt by Emily and Julia. With Henry and Ryan by my side, I felt more empowered than before. I felt a surge of energy and warmth in my chest. So, I was able to declare to Emily and Julia, "Let me say this as a doctor, Emily and Julia, it's too late for you. How could you let things get this far?" As I declared this as if it were checkmate, Emily and Julia's anger reached its peak, their faces turning bright red as if they were boiling kettles. "What do you mean it's too late?" "Exactly. We will sue you for threatening us with misdiagnosis and human rights violations. If you really want to sue, go ahead. I have friends who are excellent lawyers, and it's clear to me that I would win against you." Since you seem quite foolish, let me explain. Your characters are flawed. When I said it's too late, I meant that your humanity is beyond saving. Now that I've explained it in detail, do you understand? Do you get it now? And what exactly about our humanity is beyond saving? Yeah, you are getting so worked up just because we make jokes about you a little. How scary. Right. What if he becomes a criminal someday and has a bounty on his head? Exactly. If that happens, we'll just use others to catch him and split the bounty among ourselves. That's brilliant. Well, you can praise me more. Now, Emily and Julia were treating me as if I were a criminal. It's frightening how they immediately reverted to their bad habit of belittling others, even after being called out for it. It seemed like belittling others had become a deeply ingrained part of their daily lives, happening almost unconsciously. I sighed again. Emily and Julia snapped back at me. "What, you still have complaints against us? Really? So annoying. Are you some kind of quack doctor?" That's so true. Right. As Emily and Julia started to get excited about insulting me, I wondered how many times I had seen this today. I was fed up and extremely irritated by their persistent and unapologetic behavior. So, I shouted louder than before. "I have plenty of complaints, and I'm not a quack doctor. My patience has completely run out, so I'm going to say this." Emily and Julia continued to laugh foolishly. "Oh, what are you going to say? It must be some quack doctor's diagnosis. How silly. Actually, I've heard you've been passing your work on to Lisa. What are you thinking?" "What? How do you know about that?" "Yeah, who are you really?" "When you were in front of restroom, I overheard you talking about it. I was really surprised then." Hearing this, Emily and Julia's expressions darkened, realizing they were in trouble. Henry and Ryan, who take their work seriously, sent them cold looks, clearly unable to forgive their actions. They both sighed deeply. "It's unbelievable. Abandoning the work you were entrusted with by the company and making Lisa do it is not something responsible adults do." "Exactly. And then you have the nerve to criticize the server who collapsed, pretending to be upstanding citizens. It's the worst." As Henry and Ryan spoke sternly, Emily and Julia started to act desperately. "No, you've got it wrong. We just had some unavoidable matters, and that's why we had to." "Yeah, work is about helping each other out, right, Lisa." Julia, seizing the moment, appealed to Lisa, either seeking help from the current predicament or simply trying to deflect the blame, but Lisa's expression was complex. However, Lisa seemed to have made up her mind and said, "Both of you always left your work to me, saying you had matters to attend to, but I knew you were leaving work to me to go to Mixers. I'm fully aware that you were using me, so don't underestimate me." Lisa's unexpected statement caused an uproar among everyone present. "What? Why did you agree to do their work, knowing they were going to Mixers? Yeah, why did you put yourself in such a convenient position for them?" Henry and Ryan seemed to have many questions about Lisa's actions and mindset. Emily and Julia, having been exposed for dumping work on Lisa and attending Mixers, were trembling with fear. I continued to watch over Lisa. Because I cared about Emily and Julia, that's why. "Lisa, thank you. Lisa, you would never betray us." Emily and Julia approached Lisa, saying this. This scene felt familiar, but by now, I had pegged Emily and Julia as the type to cozy up to just about anyone. I wondered if Lisa would just be swayed by them and pretend to reconcile, observing the women, but then, Lisa made a surprising move. "Don't touch me," Lisa said, distancing herself from Emily and Julia, who were trying to get close. Emily and Julia, not expecting this from Lisa, yelled at her. "What do you mean, Lisa? Don't touch you. We were good colleagues, weren't we?" "Good colleagues. Don't make me laugh. I no longer trust you, and I don't want to be close to you anymore. Plus, I'll be a manager next month, so we're not the same anymore. Can you understand that?" "But you said we were important to you." "That's right. Because we were important, you took over our work even knowing we were going to Mixers, right?" Learning that Lisa would become a manager next month, Emily and Julia seemed quite panicked. They probably feared that Lisa might expose their misdeeds as a manager, leading to their potential dismissal. They desperately wanted to keep Lisa on their side. But Lisa was unwavering. "Still bringing up the past. I began to despise you when I saw how terribly you treated Michael, and given your habit of belittling others, you probably looked down on me too, right?" "That's not true." "Yeah, no." Lisa, not trusting their words, turned to me. "Michael, they're lying, aren't they?" "Yes, Lisa. In front of restroom, Emily and Julia were indeed mocking you. They said you were a convenient tool who would do their work if they just asked with a bit of guilt because they had unavoidable matters." Hearing my confirmation, Lisa's face turned red with anger. "They also said you couldn't read the room for talking to someone like me." "I see. Thank you for telling me." Now it was clear that Emily and Julia were mocking Lisa. "I took over your work because you seemed to struggle with it, but mostly, I wanted to help you achieve your dream." "What dream was that?" Emily and Julia dreamed of becoming housewives. They talked about quitting their jobs and becoming housewives every day. So I really wanted to make that happen for them. That's why I didn't get mad when they secretly went to Mixers and took over their work. "I see." But there were no signs of them becoming housewives, and after seeing their behavior at today's Mixer, I understood why they couldn't get married. I wish I could get back all the time and effort I spent on them." Lisa glared at Emily and Julia. They seemed at a loss for words or overwhelmed with guilt, hanging their heads. The atmosphere turned heavy, but Henry and Ryan began to chuckle, lightening the mood. "What's so funny? In this era where dual-income households are the norm, they wanting to be housewives is a bit unrealistic. It's quite childish for adults their age not to understand that." Right. If they were serious about finding marriage partners, they should have gone to a marriage agency instead of mixers. Their poor time management just shows how incapable they are at work. Henry and Ryan's harsh words seemed to bring Emily and Julia to tears. "Do you understand now why I said you were beyond help?" With my final words, the two nodded silently. Later, Emily and Julia were fired from the company. It wasn't just because they had lied about having unavoidable matters and dumped their work on Lisa. The real reason was their inability to kick their bad habits. Even though they stopped dumping work on Lisa, they began burdening their juniors with it. They couldn't forget the sweetness of having others do their work. Despite being warned, they continued to attend mixers in search of marriage partners. Just like Lisa, their juniors were temporarily exploited by them. Given their nature, Emily and Julia were likely careless and foolish. This is because they were spotted by several colleagues entering a dining establishment with a mixed gender group, which could only have been a mixer. Upon receiving such damning information about Emily and Julia's misconduct, a dismayed Lisa consulted with the higher-ups, leading to their dismissal. At this point, it was purely a case of reaping what they sowed, so no one offered them words of comfort. As for me, I was able to exchange contact information with Lisa during that mixer, and we still email each other. Our emails mainly consist of encouraging each other to keep up the good work. Lisa successfully became a manager and seems to be busier with work. But I believe she'll manage just fine given her resilience. Having someone to discuss work with was a refreshing and delightful experience for me, as I'd never had such an opportunity before. Working in society may seem like a constant battle with others, but in reality, it's a longer struggle with oneself. Having someone by my side to offer support and encouragement during these solitary days makes me feel like I can achieve more. This has made me realize that perseverance and earnest can lead to rewarding outcomes. My name is Tyler. I'm just an average senior at a regular university, with an ordinary face and physique. I'm the type who might be glanced over in a yearbook with a "was this person even here?" On top of that, I'm a bit introverted. I do have social life, as a normal college student should. However, I have neither close friends nor a romantic partner. It's not so much that I don't have them, but rather, I don't see the point in having them. To me, having a best friend or a girlfriend feels like out of norm. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment in New York, with visitors being rare, perhaps only door-to-door salespeople. While some might see this as lonely, I have no complaints about this low-stimulation life. I believed that these tranquil days were my identity. There's a reason I became this way. I'm influenced by my parents and my brother, who is 3 years older. My brother, Alex, was the epitome of perfection. Academically excellent, athletically gifted, and popular. He was flawless. With such a brother, it was inevitable for our parents to compare us. I was constantly reminded, "You're just average and such an ordinary child." There was a time when I thought, maybe I'm like the ugly duckling, and someday I'll become amazing like my brother. But cruelly, that never happened. And so, the ordinary me was born. Alex, on the other hand, graduated from a well-known university, which is naturally the most difficult to get into, and now works as a researcher at a pharmaceutical company. He's the definition of an elite. And according to him, he has a promising future. Have you had dinner? No, not yet, but I was thinking of grabbing something soon. Then let's eat together. I'm about to leave the office. It's okay, you must be tired, bro. What? Just come along. All right, fine. After hanging up, I let out a heavy sigh. This is the worst. Alex contacts me from time to time, but is not out of concern for his younger brother. Although I've described Alex as a perfect superhuman, in reality, he has one flaw. He has a foul mouth. Moreover, it's directed only at me. He adopts a condescending attitude only towards me. Growing up, I was constantly compared to him by our parents, with comments like, "Your brother is amazing. Such a difference from the ordinary Tyler." It seems I've been ingrained in Alex's mind as someone he can look down upon. I checked the time. Guess I should get going. The sighs wouldn't stop. I took only my wallet and phone and headed to Alex's place. Alex also lives alone, in a place within walking distance from my apartment. Unlike my 20-year-old student apartment, Alex lives in a spacious and clean designer condo. I used my duplicate key to enter. And as usual, I began preparing dinner. The reason why he invites me over for dinner is to have me prepare the meal. And he always comes home just as everything is ready. "Hey, Mr. Average, what's for dinner tonight?" As Alex says this, he makes his usual "I've worked hard as an elite professional today" face and heads to the dining table as he should. Honestly, I didn't want to have anything to do with him. Every time I interact with Alex, I feel like my self-confidence is being mercilessly chipped away. Why are you so different from me? When he's had a bit to drink, Alex always spouts this line. "Hey, what's it like being average? I'd like to experience it just once." Haha. Each time, I could only force a pained smile, biting my back teeth together. How many times I wanted to talk back. How many times I wanted to rebel. But I knew I would be argued down, and resorting to violence would be futile against my stronger brother. I may not be as smart as him, but I understand that much. In every aspect, I am inferior to him, and compared to him, I must be just average, an ordinary person. Unfortunately, this is an unchangeable fact. I hate him, but I despise my parents even more. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say I loathe them. Why can't you be as good as Alex? Are you really brothers? Whatever you do is just mediocre, they would often say. It was inevitable. The more apparent the difference between Alex and me became, the more my parents doted on him, and the less space there was for me. Both my father and mother had a completely different look in their eyes when they saw me compared to when they saw Alex. That alone was enough to hurt my heart. I was so thoroughly ridiculed as just an ordinary kid, just an average kid, that I couldn't even muster the spirit to work hard and prove Alex and parents wrong. The only thing I learned from my parents was how to endure. I'm in my senior year of college. Becoming a working adult might free me from the chains of Alex and parents. Or so I thought, but there was a major problem. Job hunting. There are only a few months left until graduation. Yet, no good news has come my way. I applied to notable companies, but perhaps my introverted nature seeped through. Even if I passed the document screening, I would be rejected at the interview stage. I'll be ridiculed again. Looking at the relentless emails saying, "We regret to inform you that we have decided not to move forward with your application," I sighed. Will I not be able to turn things around once I work? Is it because I'm from a normal university that I'm facing these hurdles? I may be one of the few who hasn't secured a job yet. Such thoughts only deepen my gloom. With my self-esteem crushed by my parents and brother, I have no future dreams. I used to have dreams when I was little. I suddenly remember my younger self. Back when the difference between Alex and me wasn't so pronounced, and I could play freely. The memory is hazy, and I can't recall it clearly, but I told someone, I'm going to be someone who can make the person I love happy. I, still a child, boldly declared something so presumptuous. Probably inspired by something I saw on TV. I remember feeling embarrassed about saying something so cringeworthy. That energy from back then is something I no longer have. I gaze up at the ceiling. The confines of this small room reflect my current state of mind. Will the day come when I can leave this place behind? Thinking about it made me sad. One day, I got a call from my dad. Assuming he'd just make snide remarks about me not having a job yet, I ignored it for a while, but the missed calls piled up like crazy. Reluctantly, I answered the phone. I need a favor from you. A favor? I was taken aback by the word favor. My dad asking me for help was unheard of in my lifetime. But he didn't sound like he was joking. You're an adult now, so I'll tell you straight up, we're in debt. What? $100,000. $100,000. It's for your college tuition and mom's hospital bills. What? Indeed, my parents are paying for my tuition. While doing so, they grumble quite a bit. But what does $100,000 debt mean? My dad had a steady job, and I don't recall any talk of financial troubles when I lived at home. If anything, we lived quite comfortably. Above all, I couldn't make sense of the hospital bills for my mom. Explain everything from the beginning. What's this about mom's hospital bills? Yay, about that. According to my dad, my mom had a chronic illness. She started feeling unwell around the time I entered college and had been in and out of the hospital. There were times when my parents would be away from home for a few days while I was living there, which apparently had to do with my mom's illness. I had no idea. Well, we never told you. My dad said matter-of-factly. It seemed less about not wanting to worry me and more about thinking I didn't need to know. Learning that I was excluded from a major family issue made my heart sink. But my dad, oblivious to my feelings, unilaterally said what he wanted to say. So, contact Alex and listen to what he has to say. Huh, what is he coming up in this? Just hurry up and call him or go see him. This makes no sense. You're the one who called me with a favor, right? That's why I'm asking you to listen to what Alex has to say. Is this about solving the debt issue, or is it about mom's illness? Hey, I'm counting on you. Without answering my questions, my dad just hung up. This situation was so absurd, I couldn't keep up. What the hell is this? Frustration coursed through me. Grinding my teeth, I contacted Alex. Hey, have you secured a job yet? As soon as I called him, he hit me with the question I was dreading the most. As I fell silent, not knowing how to respond, he snorted and said, as I expected, "Did Dad tell you about the $100,000 debt?" "Yeah, I heard. My boss, President Thompson, has a daughter who's looking for a partner, and I recommended you." "What?" "If you marry her, they'll take care of the $100,000 debt." Huh? Things were starting to make sense. My parents and brother planned to use me as a scapegoat to wipe out the $100,000 debt. If she is the daughter of the president of your company, why don't you marry her? That way, you could become the president of that company in the future. I can do it. Why not? I already have a girlfriend. I couldn't argue with that. But why would Alex pass up such a great opportunity to me? Is it because by me becoming part of Mr. Thompson's family, he plans to take over the company from the inside? I can't shake the feeling there's a catch. But I'm just an ordinary college student without a job offer. I don't think I'm a match for a president's daughter. It's fine. They saw your photo and liked you, Maybe they have a thing for your average face, haha. I could hear Alex's mocking laughter. On top of taking care of the $100,000 debt, there's a marriage proposal with the president's daughter. And all this for me, an ordinary guy even without a job offer. There's definitely something going on. I had a gut feeling. I should clearly refuse it. Just as I was about to voice my thoughts. As if he had seen it coming, Alex said in a strong tone, "You understand, right? Don't embarrass me. Here's a perfect chance for you, Mr. Ordinary and Average, to repay our parents. Try to be useful for once." It seems my opinion was never considered from the start. The call had already ended. A sudden $100,000 debt and a marriage proposal with a president's daughter. My mind was about to explode. Had my parents and brother made such plans behind my back? What do they think of my future? Utterly distasteful. Yet, part of me thought, maybe this is an opportunity. If I could owe my parents and brother, I might gain the upper hand in the future. Though I hated to play into their hands, I decided to accept the marriage proposal. After all, she's a president's daughter. She might be a talented and beautiful woman. I chose to see it positively. Seriously. Upon meeting my prospective partner, I was disappointed. Her name was Emily. She seemed kind and well-mannered as the daughter of the president. But, to put it kindly, she wasn't exactly beautiful. She seemed to weigh at least 200 pounds. Every time she smiled warmly, her eyes disappeared under her facial fat and her chin wobbled. Next to Emily was her mother, Miss Thompson, a slender and beautiful woman. The difference in their appearances was so stark it made me doubt they were related. I guess it's no wonder she doesn't have a partner with looks like that. I thought bitterly to myself. I could see why Alex hadn't volunteered himself. "Tyler, am I not good enough for you?" Had my disappointment shown on my face for her to ask with such concern? No, it's not that. I don't want to force marriage on anyone. It's not what I truly want. Emily said with a look of sadness. Honestly, I wanted to refuse. But doing so would undoubtedly bring a storm of criticism from my parents and brother. Besides, this was a chance to put them in my debt. But the imposing presence of Emily was no small matter. Could I really spend my life with her? The more I looked at her, the more my anxiety grew. Since we've only just met, how about we live together for a month first? I desperately needed time to think. If we married and then quickly divorced, I'd surely face a backlash from my parents and brother. That makes sense. We should get to know each other first. Otherwise, it's too worrying. Emily's face brightened up instantly, and she agreed to my suggestion with enthusiasm. All right, if you are okay with it, let's do that. Thank you so much. I was relieved that my suggestion was accepted. Hey, Tyler, if you're still looking for a job, why not work at our company? Really, but I'm not a science major, and I don't know anything about pharmaceuticals. Our company isn't just about research like your brother does. Oh, right. Thank you for considering me. Could this also be a trap? However, as someone without a job offer, this was a golden opportunity. I accepted my future mother-in-law's offer somewhat recklessly. Upon graduating from university, I started living with Emily. As expected of a president's daughter's residence. It was a luxury property, far surpassing the condo where Alex lives. While it took some time to get used to Emily's large figure, she was perfect at cleaning and cooking. Contrary to my fears that she wouldn't be able to do any housework, she pleasantly surprised me. The lunches she prepares for me, waking up early, are delicious. She doesn't cut corners with frozen foods. Each dish is carefully crafted and packed. Having cooked dinner for Alex, I knew the effort that went into each dish. Despite likely being tired, she never complained and always sent me off with a bright smile, saying, "Have a great day at work." "Thank you, always." Not at all. Above all, Emily was cheerful. Her presence is comforting. Perhaps it's because of the gloomy life I led before, but Emily's presence has begun to take on significant importance in my life. "Welcome home. How was work today?" "Hello. You seem down today." "I made a mistake at work. I'm not as capable as the others." "What are you talking about, Tyler? You're still new. It's natural to make mistakes." "Really?" "Exactly. Look, I've even prepared some snacks for us to enjoy, with drinks after dinner." "Wow, that's great. If you have any work frustrations, I'm here to listen to everything, so go ahead and get changed first." "Thanks." Not at all. I could share anything with Emily. I couldn't believe how I used to think I didn't need someone like her just a few months ago. Working alongside graduates from prestigious universities was both mentally and physically demanding. But it was Emily's brightness that kept me going. I turned back to Emily and said, The lunch you made today was delicious, thanks. I'm preparing dinner right now, you know." Embarrassed, Emily quickly retreated to the kitchen. After living with Emily for half a month, we were managing our life together without any issues. "Emily, look, the new release of the novel series you like is out." "Wow, thank you, Tyler. Are you going to read it too?" "I bought some comics for myself." What kind? Show me. It's a suspense story. You might like it too. Want to start from the first volume?" "Really? Awesome." Emily's cheerfulness. It reminded me of my first love, who had a similar brightness. She was called Emmy. A girl I met in the park when I was just starting elementary school. With her hair tied in two, she was so pretty that even as a child, I wanted to call her beautiful. Emmy and I could only meet at the park since we attended different schools. The limited time to see each other made my heart flutter even more. She was just like Emily, always smiling and very bright. But one day, her expression turned gloomy. When I asked, "What's wrong?" she said her father had passed away. I wanted to cheer up Emmy. I made funny faces and told silly jokes, trying my best to make her laugh. And when Emmy finally started to regain her cheerfulness, I'm moving away. "What?" "Tyler, thank you for everything. I was really sad when my dad passed away, but you cheered me up, and that made me so happy." My first love ended abruptly. I looked over at Emily, reading comics beside me on the sofa. "Emmy, couldn't be right." I shook my head. On the last day of our cohabitation, Emily said she had something important to discuss and showed me a photo in the living room. That. "You remember this photo, right? I'm glad. I'm Emmy." The photo captured me clowning and Emmy laughing at me. Emily, with wide eyes, started to tell me a truth I never knew. "I've always liked you, Tyler, but you know, your brother, Alex, actually, when you weren't around, he bullied me." "What? My brother did?" "We were in first grade, and he was so much bigger as a fourth grader. I was terrified. Alex knew I liked you, and he didn't like that at all." "That's unbelievable." Alex would say things like, "Tyler doesn't like someone like you, or Tyler has someone else he likes, so give up," and he'd chase me, pull my hair, and even throw garbage at me. Eventually, when I got really scared and told my mom, we ended up moving. I didn't know. I had no idea. The joy of reuniting with Emmy was overshadowed by the painful truth Emily shared. I never knew such things had happened. "I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you." I apologized sincerely. Emily shook her head at my apology. Because of you, Tyler, I was able to overcome my dad's death. But I really liked you, Tyler. That's why when I couldn't see you anymore after moving, I ended up eating too much. Emily said, patting her stomach. I thought you'd hate me for looking like this. That's not true. Over this month, living together, I've come to understand. I love you, Emily. Really? I nodded with full confidence. I see. Why are you crying, Emily? She wiped her tears, saying, It's happy tears, and then she said, I'm really happy now, Tyler. Thank you for keeping your promise from back then. Promise? You said, I'm going to be someone who can make the person I love happy. I hope we can stay together. I straightened up and looked her in the eyes, declaring, I'm going to make you even happier, Emily. I'll be looking forward to it. Emily smiled, truly happy. The wedding proceeded without a hitch, except for one thing. My brother, Alex. He got drunk at the reception and cornered me during the candle service, hurling insults. Marrying such a fatty, you're too brave, man. Just look at her in that dress. It's a disaster. You know, brides are supposed to look 30% more beautiful. She's wearing a dress, and look at her. No way. Naturally, not only Emily, but also the guests around him were taken aback. That's disappointing. You're smart, but you judge people by their appearance. Hey, Tyler, what did you just say? I said you're the lowest of the low. Even my usually confident brother was silenced by my unexpected retort. Emily, don't worry about what Alex says. I love you. If he says anything gay, I'll drive him away. Thank you. I held Emily's hand tightly, comforting her. Months later, as Emily and I were walking near our company, we ran into Alex. He was holding a fast food lunch, probably out for his lunch break. Spotting us, he approached with a smirk. Hey, Tyler, sick of your fat wife and already having an affair. Weren't you the one preaching at your wedding that people shouldn't judge by appearances? Look. As I was about to sigh and counter Alex, Emily stopped me. It seemed she wanted to speak for herself. She stepped forward boldly and glared at him. I'm Tyler's wife, Emily. What? No way. That's impossible. It seemed the harsh words Alex said at the reception had deeply hurt Emily, prompting her to dedicate herself to dieting. As a result, she transformed into a figure that could easily be mistaken for a model. And Alex, just so you know, I'm the Emmy you used to bully. No way. That can't be. I'm looking forward to seeing who you'll marry, Alex. She must be a beautiful person. Jay, probably someone who's all looks and no substance, just like you. Emily and I proudly walked away, leaving my stunned brother behind. Marrying Emily led her mother to take care of the $100,000 debt. My parents were overjoyed and, getting a taste for it, started asking for money frequently. Your mom's condition worsened, and now the hospital bills are $50,000. Can you ask again if we can get help? Sensing something was off, I hired a private investigator. The shocking truth was revealed. Neither the original $100,000 debt nor the new $50,000 were for my mother's medical expenses. Don't mess with me. I know everything. Mom's sickness. You two have been gambling and racked up debt. Well, that's... You liars. If you need help, ask your beloved son, Alex. Don't ever contact me again. I'm cutting ties with you. Abandoned by me, my parents had no choice but to turn to Alex. They had borrowed from shady lenders, and the collection efforts reached Alex's workplace. As a result, Alex found it difficult to stay at the company and resigned. He left, harboring resentment towards me. I don't know, nor do I want to know, what became of my parents and brother. Meanwhile, my earnest work ethic, despite my ordinary intellect, was recognized, and Emily's mother even suggested I might one day take over the company. Have a good day, here's your lunch. Thanks, I'll do my best. Though Emily's appearance changed dramatically, her bright and kind nature remained the same. My life is fulfilled both at work and home, and I am living very happily.